All right. Hello, everybody. I am presenting my unit plan. The unit plan that I used was the one that she provided on Canvas. The one about math. So kind of just like a brief summary of the whole unit as a whole. I would plan to teach this as like 5 consecutive days. So I would take a week to teach this unit. This unit's meant for 4th grade, and each lesson would be around 70 minutes. This is a math lesson with the focus on students learning fractions and kind of correlating how fractions, how they correlate with decimals. The overarching learning goal is to comprehend equivalent fractions and convert them into decimals. So this is kind of just like, a really brief overview of the whole week. And then kind of as we go through the slides, I'll kind of just be breaking it down by day and what the students are going to be doing along with the tech tool that I incorporated. So here are the standards for day 1. So this is kind of how their schedule is breaking down. The students will, come to class, and this is kind of like their entry task, their 10-minute math. So during this 10-minute math time, the students are either working individually, either on their laptops, or that's kind of just a time to work as a group. It's kind of like their review time. After that, they go to their activity or their chunk of the lesson for the day, and then they just finish it off by having their daily practice. So in regards to each of these, there's just a couple of standards to go along with it. The 10-minute math, students are going to read and write multiple digit whole numbers using 10 base numerals, number names, and extended forms compared to multi-digit numbers based on meanings of the digits in each place using these symbols to record the results of comparisons. Students are also going to use place values understanding to round multi-digit whole numbers to any place. So a majority of these standards are going to be kind of reused throughout the week. So a common theme that's going to be seen is that a lot of these standards are going to repeat, like for each day. And there might just be a couple swaps. But in general, most of the standards that are going to be taught are pretty much the same. So day 1, here's kind of what the day looks like, a brief overview. Our main focus points are up here. And then we have our vocabulary. So not every day is going to have a vocabulary. Some days there might be like 2 or 3, and other days that there might just be no vocabulary for that day. So again, here's kind of what the day looks like. Their 10-minute math. This is their review and practice time. And we went over the standards in the last slide. Then the students have their activities for the day. So this is like the class time, the big chunk of it. Afterwards, we have a discussion, and then their daily practice, their homework that they do. So the tech tool, here's the tech tool that I would be incorporating. I would want to incorporate Kahoot. Especially for 4th grade. Kahoot is, a really great tech tool to use. It keeps the students engaged, and there's just so many benefits to kind of using this in the classroom. So here's some reasonings. Why does this adaptation make the lesson better? This can be seen as a formative assessment. It would be used at the end of the class during that 15-minute class discussion time. This allows the teacher to see what the students have learned and what they might need more practice on. So I wouldn't necessarily, so the Kahoot tool would be used kind of like as an addition to the classroom. Students will still be having class discussion as questions kind of go along. The teacher, the students, if there's any questions in regards to some of the questions that there might be, they can ask questions and then have this open discussion for each question on the Kahoot. So how does it benefit students? This is a fun way to end the lesson for the students, and it also causes more class engagement. In regards to the SMAR, this would be used as adaptation because this tech tool is substituting the previous activity, which would just be like an open class discussion. And instead of doing that, we kind of substitute that with the game Kahoot, and this allows for significant improvement in engagement in regards to like student participation. Alrighty, so I just logged into Kahoot. So Kahoot is an app that we've kind of used in class before. Here are a couple ones that I've made. But generally, like as a teacher, to create it, you would just push, you would create an account, you would sign in, you would push just the create button, and then you could either create a course for the classroom as a whole. It might be a little bit easier to kind of, if you want to like do, more than one Kahoot throughout like the math lesson, you could do a course. Or if it's just like a one-time use, I would just create just a regular Kahoot. You start by typing your question, and then you would have your answers here at the bottom. And on the unit lesson plan, it gives you like questions to ask, along with some possible answers that students might provide. So this would also be kind of just a great resource to add on to that. You want to add more than a question, you just keep going, keep adding questions. You would enter the title, which just be the unit 1 math lesson. You would have to make it public so that all your students would be able to see. And it's just some kind of an example of what it would look like. This draft, and then so I switched over to a different one that I had previously created, but once you're done creating your Kahoot, it would look something similar to this. You can kind of add any pictures or anything that you like, visuals that you would want to add to kind of help the students. You would just press assign, or you would press start, and then it should take you to this loading screen. You could either do teams or classics. I would just recommend doing classics. And then this is what it kind of looks like. It'll show up a pin, and students will just log on to their computers and enter this pin. And then that's pretty much how you get the game started. So Kahoot is a tech tool that I really like using, and that I will for sure, be utilizing a lot more in my classroom because I feel like it has a lot of different uses and a lot of different benefits for the students. So this would be day two standards. A lot of these standards, like these two up here for the 10-minute math, are the same as they were for the previous day. Um, Again, these standards for like the activity are also pretty similar. Here are some new ones. So these would be like the supporting standards. Students will be able to solve world problems involving addition and subtraction of fractions referring to the same whole and having like denominators by using visual fraction models and equations to present the problem. So pretty much the layout or the structure of the lessons are going to be the same. If we go to the next slide, we can kind of see how day two, the overall structure of the lesson looks pretty similar. We have our math focus points up here at the top. We have some vocabulary. And on day two, students are going to be working on fractions of an area, focusing on the thirds and the sixths. Again, every single lesson will begin with a 10-minute math review and practice, followed by an activity. And then in some lessons, the discussion might take place at the end. And this one, as we can see, this is taking place in the middle. So for our tech tool that we will be using, one of my favorite tech tools that I ended up learning in class was Pear Deck. I absolutely love the idea of Pear Deck. One of my favorite features of it was the vocabulary cards that are kind of an add-on to that. So kind of a different way to use the vocab cards on Pear Deck is there's a lot of different ways to use it, right? You can use them like this one has the vocabulary. Oops. This one has the vocabulary. You could do it with the vocabulary, or how I'm doing it a little different is that students will have like a question on one side of the card. And then on the other side of the card, students will be able to like write their answers. So why is this adaptation make the lesson better? Students will be able to better identify the relationship between unit fractions when one denominator is a multiple of the other. On one side of the flashcard, students will have a fraction, and on the other side, they will have the area shaded. So a really cool feature of Pear Deck is that it allows you to kind of draw on the cards. So in this case, I would have the students, write the fraction, and on the other side, I would have them kind of shade in the responding fraction. How does this benefit students? Students will be able to print the flashcards and practice them individually or in groups whenever they need to. So again, this is just like a really easy tool. If students end up having time after class, if they get their work done a little bit earlier, they can always just pull out these cards and kind of work with them and with their partners, with their table mates, or they can just do them individually to kind of have them practice it a little bit more. This for the SMART would be used as augmentation because the tech tool is used as a direct substitution and will add significant functional improvement because students will create their own questions. So I forgot to mention, this tech tool would be used during the activity time. And like if students were to So going to the flashcard factory website on Pear Deck, here is a simple overview of how it works. One, create your list. Either the teacher would create the list, the teacher would create like different fractions, and students would just students would just draw the picture. So that can be seen like here. Students are able to, draw a picture to kind of help them visualize what the word is that they're trying to kind of correlate. Afterwards, as a class, this would be kind of a good opportunity to see where students might need improvement on. For example, if a student like turned in a card that is incorrect, that could be like an opportunity for the class to discuss, is this card that we see on the board, like, is it correct? Is it shown correctly? What are some changes we can make to the card? So that is how I would use Pear Deck or Flashcard Factory. So day 3, here are some standards again. A lot of them are the same. Same formatting. And day 3, students would work on same parts but different wholes. So here are the math focus points. Again, the overall kind of structure of the class is the same. In regards to the math focus points, students will be finding fractional parts of a rectangle, comparing the same fractional parts of different sized wholes, and identify equivalent fractions and explain why they are equivalent. So the tech tool that I would use is Google Forms. I would specifically use this tool during the beginning of the lesson, during that entry task time, during the 10-minute kind of review section. During this time, students can practice their place values. A correlating or a recurring theme for every single lesson is students are practicing their place values. So for every lesson, every single day during that 10-minute review time, students are practicing their place values. So using this tech tool, it would be a good way to kind of just add a different take on it instead of just having the students write with pen and paper. They can use their Google form to kind of go through and complete as many as they can. This also allowed the students to work at their own pace and not feel any pressure from doing this as a class. This tech tool also would benefit the students because it provides them that instant feedback. And it can also be used as like an assessment, and the teacher can see what areas the student might need a little bit more help in. Students can think of this as a game, and before they start the Google form, you can set like a personal goal for them, like, okay, I would like to complete at least 2 or 3 problems. And I would just specify to the students, you don't have to complete the whole Google form. Just complete as many as you set for yourself. So for the SMART, this would be definition, because this tech tool allows for creation of new tasks that were previously inconceivable, because students are able to get that instant feedback whereas before they wouldn't necessarily be getting it right away. So if we were to use Google Forms, any Google kind of tool is pretty easy to use as long as you have a Google account, which I think everybody mostly has one. So if we would just scroll down, we go to Google Forms. And then just as a teacher, you would just create a blank one and then just add your question. And then you could provide different options, different multiple choice questions. And if you were to do it as a multiple choice, this would be the time where students will be able to get that instant feedback. Whereas if we were to have it a short answer, students aren't necessarily able to get that instant feedback right away, because as a teacher, you have to go back and review the work. I paused it. And then as a teacher, you would be able to see their responses and kind of see like if there's questions that the students missed and so on and so forth. So day 3, again, here are the standards. A lot of them are the same. There's just a couple different ones, like these ones, these two. Yep. These two right here. They're new ones because on day 4, students are going to be kind of transitioning to decimals. Again, here are some vocabulary words for the students, and the main focus points for this one is that students are going to be reading and writing tenths and hundreds and representing tenths and hundreds as part of an area. Okay, and here's a tech tool that I would be utilizing. For this day, I would try to follow the set lesson that is placed because I feel like a really big importance that I would want to have is, you know, during this time, students might have questions because we're kind of getting towards the end of the week. This will be Thursday. So an app that I would want to utilize is Flipgrid. And why does this adaptation make the lesson better? My plan for using this tech tool is for students to complete their Flipgrid either after class or either like right after class or outside of this class scheduled time. In the Flipgrid, students are going to be asking questions that they might have in regards to the unit as a whole. You know, since it is Thursday, it's the end of the lesson, if students are like unsure of something, if you have any questions, this is kind of the time to kind of go through that. And then your peers can go through the Flipgrid and answer some of the questions that they might have. This is kind of the opportunity for students, you know, to be able to work together and help each other out. So this will fall under redefinition because this tech tool is adding a new element to the lesson that was previously not present in the original lesson. And for Flipgrid is pretty easy to use. As a teacher, again, like all the other apps, you just need to have an account and then just create a new course, and students will be able to create their own Flipgrid. So this is the last day. Here are some standards. Again, a lot of repeat standards. Day 5, students are, since Friday, students are going to be working on equivalent fractions and decimals. Here are the main focus points and the lesson. So here's the tech tool that I would have. This is a new tech tool that I found. The rationale, why does this adaptation make the lesson better? This tech tool would be used during the 40-minute math workshop time. And students would spend around 15 minutes using this tech tool. And then they would kind of transition back to their worksheets in their math book. So this would be used kind of at the beginning of that time. How does it benefit the students? This helps the students visualize how fractions and decimals and percentages fit together like a piece of a puzzle, signifying that they're all the same. For the SMAR, this would fall under modification because this tech tool is not directly substituting the lesson as a whole. Instead, it is adding to the classroom. It is adding to the classroom, allowing for task redesign. So here is kind of how to play the game. We'll just play like a few short ones. I would go on level 2. So here's kind of what it looks like. This is how 2 fourths. Students will need to kind of fit them together. And there are some cases such as these, right, where if we put it in the wrong one, it won't allow us to. So this is just a great kind of add-on to the lesson and a fun way to kind of get the students to a fun way to have like kind of a new perspective on it. Is when we make learning more as a game, students are a lot more eager to participate and engage. So thank you. Those are my 5 lessons. Yeah, thank you for listening.